I'm getting ready to start retraining these girls to electric fencing so we can get them out on pasture. I sure do wish that eclipse was back because it is bright as anything out here now. That eclipse, in hindsight, though not spectacular, it was nice to have a little bit of a break in the sun exposure. Right before we got these pigs, I made this corral for them, and about nose height off the ground, I put a single strand of electric polywire up so I could train them to electric fencing. The electric strand was working pretty well. They learned to respect it for the most part, but you'll notice it's not up anymore. At the beginning of June, when I moved the sheep from this side of the property way out to the western pasture, you guys remember that when we took the long run across the field? I moved the sheep back there past that big fir tree there, and I moved the energizer over to here and hooked it up to my reel system that provided electricity all along the perimeter of the pasture on this side and then across the little drainage area on the far side of the pasture too. It loops completely around, so it enabled me to run my electric netting off of that. But then my challenge was getting electricity back over to the pigs and having to cross the driveway with it. So I didn't jump on solving that issue right away, and after a couple days of the electric strand being off, the pigs started challenging it, and once they realized it was off, they tore it up. They actually ripped it down, and that's why they don't have their strand up there anymore. Since then, I've put up a step-in post and a single strand of polywire that goes all the way behind the carport. It goes behind the carport there and continues behind our house. It comes out on the other side of our house, goes around here, and then snakes around back to where our raised bed garden is back there, where we have the electric deer fencing up, so it energizes that. Now that I have power going around there, I could easily snake it over to where the pigs are and run an electric strand through there. However, the issue now is them testing it. Generally in the morning, when I'm doing morning chores, there's at least an hour, sometimes more, gap where I have the fence off, and that's when I'm feeding the sheep, taking Blue, our livestock guardian dog, out and bringing him to his breakfast. And then there's just other times throughout the day where I'll generally have the fence off for various reasons. Because of the pigs' curiosity, intelligence level, and them now knowing that the fence is off for some period of time, and they're more willing to test it and challenge it. So me having the fence off for long periods of time is really not going to work. So when looking for an electric fencing solution, I turned to Premier One. So in order to keep the pig fencing energized all the time, even when I'm working with the sheep and moving them, that sort of thing, I decided to get a second energizer. I got this from Premier One. This is a solar unit. Unlike my other one that just runs off a battery and I charge on AC, this one will charge via the solar panel here. This is the Premier One Solar Intellishock 120. What really pushed me over the edge getting the solar unit versus the plug-in unit is the portability. I can move this thing anywhere on the homestead, and it has a single ground rod that comes with it that just pounds right in the ground, super simple, very easy to move around. Though my other Energizer will probably pack a little bit more punch than the solar one, that one is really hard to move. I have 3 ground rods stuck in the ground, 3 feet. I have to sledge them in to get them into the ground. Though I can move it from time to time, it's definitely not something I'm going to want to be moving with any frequency. The The battery that powers this unit is inside the case here. I just have to hook it up. I'm gonna turn it on and test it. If it blinks green, it should be working. Yep, green light. What I'll be using that energizer to electrify is this. This is Premier One Pig Quick Fence. It's much like my chicken and sheep netting, except a lot smaller. The Quick Fence is only 30 inches tall. My goal is to have the pigs out of the corral and onto a pasture by the end of the week. And instead of putting a strand around the perimeter in here, I'm actually going to use the pig quick fencing in there so they get trained to that, and there's no mistaking it when they get out on pasture. And just like with all other livestock using electric fencing, there has to be a training period, a breaking in period where they learn what the fence does and they know how to react to it properly. An animal's natural inclination when they get shocked is to run forward. If they're out on pasture and there are no physical barriers to stop them, they'll charge right through the fence. That's why it's really important that we get them retrained to it while we still have them in the corral, so there's this cattle panel to stop them. If they have issues, I don't think they will because they've already been introduced to the electric earlier this year and they kind of learned about it, but still, I'm not going to take the chance. But if they have an issue with it and run forward, they're just going to hit this cattle panel and then they'll realize, I cannot run forward and get away from the shock. They're going to have to learn to go backward. I would have really liked to have accomplished this several weeks ago. The pigs have been in this corral way too long. They've definitely done some damage to it. I do have some plans on repairing it, but it's definitely not been the best case scenario with managing these pigs. You can see here the amount of erosion they've caused. Kind of a dust bowl scenario now, so if there's wind, we have lots of dust blowing off there. So lots of erosion here with leaving the pigs in here as long as we have. My original plan was to have the pigs in here for just a couple weeks and then get them out on pasture, but the problem with it was they were really pregnant. I wasn't sure how far along they were, and so soon after they got here, they really started showing signs of getting ready to farrow. It wound up being about a month they were here, and then they each had their litters, and then we had a bunch of piglets running around the corral there, and I didn't really know how that would work, trying to move them with piglets out on pasture. So I decided just to leave them in here for a while, figure out how to manage the pigs, figure out what they need as far as feed and water, and deal with the piglets, get them weaned. And now we have that all accomplished. The piglets have been weaned for a few weeks now. They're in their own little paddock, and we're keeping them in there until we can get hopefully more of them sold off. So I feel we're at a good point now to try to move the pigs out of here. I'm going to use them to create disturbance on our knapweed fields. Hopefully they'll create enough disturbance, and I'm going to throw seed down on there and hopefully revive our pastures using them. Just got hit over there. It is working. The fence absolutely works. The fence tester is indicating that it's at 8,000 volts or higher, which is more than enough. We've had 2 of them shocked so far, and it looks like they're not really interested in getting shocked repeatedly like they were last time. The one challenge now is going to be Clara. You see her back in there. She's our little free-range piglet. She's not going to be able to get in or out now with that fence up. She might have to go back to living with the sheep. I'm not sure, we'll have to get this sorted out, but overall I'm pretty pleased with how this is working so far. Sometime in the next few days, we're going to be setting this up and moving the pigs out on pasture.